rolling that out, not everywhere, but we're starting in a handful of countries, and we'll do more over the coming weeks and months. So that I think is going to be a pretty big deal. And I'm really excited to get that in people's hands. It's a big step forward for Meta AI. But I think, if you want to get under the hood a bit, the Llama 3 stuff is obviously the most technically interesting. So, we're basically, for the first version, we're training 3 versions, an 8 billion and a 70 billion, which we're releasing today, and a 405 billion dense model, which is still training. So we're not releasing that today. But the 8 and 70, I'm pretty excited about how they turned out. It's they're leading for their scale. We'll release a blog post with all the benchmarks so people can check it out themselves. And obviously it's open source, so people get a chance to play with it. We have a roadmap of new releases coming that are going to bring multimodality, more multilinguality, bigger context windows to those as well. And then, hopefully sometime later in the year, we'll get to roll out the 405, which I think is in training, it's still training, but for where it is right now in training, it is already at around 85 mmLU, and just we expect that it's going to have leading benchmarks on a bunch of the benchmarks. So I'm pretty excited about all of that. The 70 billion is great too. We're releasing that today. It's around 82 mmLU. It has leading scores on math and reasoning. So it's I think just getting this in people's hands is going to be pretty wild.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's the first I'm hearing of benchmark. That's super impressive.
Yeah, the 8 billion is nearly as powerful as the biggest version of Llama 2 that we released. So it's like the smallest Llama 3 is basically as powerful as the biggest Llama 2.
Okay, so before we dig into these models, I actually want to go back in time. 2022 is, I'm assuming, when you started acquiring these H100s. Or you can tell me when. But you're like, stock price is getting hammered. People are like, what's happening with all this CapEx? People aren't buying the metaverse. And presumably you're spending that CapEx to get these H100s. Back then, how did you know to get the H100s? How did you know to do this?
I think it was because we were looking for tools. So, we got into this situation where we always want to have enough capacity to build something that we can't quite see that we're on the horizon yet. And we got into this position with Reels where we needed more GPUs to train the models. Right? It's a big evolution for our services where instead of just ranking content from people who you follow or your friends and whatever pages you follow, we made this big push to basically start recommending what we call unconnected content. It basically content from people or pages that you're not following. So now kind of the corpus of kind of content candidates that we can show you expanded from on the order of thousands to on the order of hundreds of millions. So completely different infrastructure. And we started working on doing that, and we were constrained on basically the infrastructure that we had to catch up to what TikTok was doing as quickly as we would want to. So I basically looked at that and I was like, hey, we have to make sure that we're never in this situation again. So let's order enough GPUs to do what we need to do on Reels and ranking content and feed, but let's double that, right? Because again, our normal principle is there's going to be something on the horizon that we can't see yet.
Did you know it would be AI?
Well, we thought it would be. We thought it was going to be something that had to do with training large models, right? But at the time, I thought it was probably going to be more something that had to do with content. But I don't know. It's almost just the pattern matching and running the company was always another thing, right? So I'm not even sure I had that was so deep and just trying to get the recommendations working for Reels and other content, because that's just such a big unlock for a student on Facebook to now be able to show people content that's interesting to them that they're from people that they're not even following. But that ended up being a very good decision. Okay, and then people being behind. So then it wasn't like I was so far ahead. Actually, most of the times I think where we kind of make some decision that ends up seeming good is because we messed something up before and just didn't want to repeat the mistake.
This is a total detour, but I actually want to ask about this while we're on this. We'll get back to AI in a second. So you didn't sell for 1 billion. Presumably there's some amount of exposure, right? Did you write down in your head, like, I think the actual valuation of Facebook at the time is this, and they're not actually getting the valuation right? They did actually $5 billion, of course, it was sold. So, how did you think about that choice?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, I think some of these things are just personal. I don't know at the time that I was sophisticated enough to do that analysis. But I had all these people around me who were making all these arguments for how, like, $1 billion is, like, here's the revenue that we need to make, here's how big we need to be, and it's clearly so many years in the future. Like, and it was very far ahead of where we were at the time. And I don't know, I didn't really have the financial sophistication to really even engage with that kind of debate. I think I sort of deep down believed in what we were doing. And I did some analysis. I was like, okay, well, what would I go do if I wasn't doing this? It's like, well, I really like building things, and I like helping people communicate, and I like understanding what's going on with people and the dynamics between people. So I think if I sold this company, I'd just go build another company like this. And I kind of like the one I have. So I mean, you know, why, right? But I don't know. I think a lot of the biggest bets that people make are often just based on conviction and values. It's actually usually very hard to do the analyses trying to connect the dots forward.
Yeah. So you've had Facebook AI research for a long time. Now it's become seemingly central to your company. At what point did making AGI or whatever, however you consider that mission, at what point is that like, this is a creep priority of what Meta is doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a big deal for a while. So we started there about 10 years ago. And the idea was that along the way to general intelligence or AI, like full AI, whatever you want to call it, there are going to be all these different innovations, and that's going to just improve everything that we do. So we didn't kind of conceive it as a product. It was more kind of a research group. And over the last 10 years, it has created a lot of different things that have basically improved all of our products and advanced the field and allowed other people in the field to create things that have improved our products too. So I think that that's been great. But there's obviously a big change in the last few years when, you know, ChatGPT comes out, the diffusion models and image creation come out, and like, I mean, this is pretty wild stuff, right? That I think is like pretty clearly going to affect how people interact with like every app that's out there. So at that point we started a second group, the Gen AI group, with the goal of basically bringing that stuff into our product. So building leading foundation models that would sort of power all these different products. And initially when we started doing that, the theory at first was, hey, a lot of the stuff that we're doing is pretty social, right? So, you know, it's helping people interact with creators, helping people interact with businesses to, you know, so the businesses can sell things or do customer support, or, you know, basic assistant functionality for, you know, whether it's for our apps or the smart glasses or VR, or like all these different things. So initially it wasn't completely clear that you were going to need kind of full AGI to be able to support those use cases. But then through working on them, I think it's actually become clear that you do, right? They're in all these subtle ways. So for example, you know, for Llama 2, when we were working on it, we didn't prioritize coding. And the reason why we didn't prioritize coding is because people aren't going to ask Meta AI a lot of coding questions in WhatsApp.
Now they will.
Right? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure that WhatsApp is like the UI that people are going to be doing a lot of coding questions. Yeah. So we're like, all right, look, in terms of the things that, you know, or Facebook or Instagram or, you know, those different services, maybe the website, right? Meta.ai that we're launching, I think. Yeah. But the thing that was sort of, I think has been a, you know, somewhat surprising result over the last, you know, 18 months is that it turns out that coding is important for a lot of domains, not just coding, right? So even if people aren't asking coding questions to the models, training the models on coding helps them just be more rigorous and answer the question and kind of help reason across a lot of different types of domains. Okay, so that's one example where it's like, all right, so for Llama 3, we like really focused on training it with a lot of coding because it's like, all right, that's going to make it better on all these things, even if people aren't asking primarily coding questions. Reasoning, I think, is another example. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe you want to chat with a creator, or you're a business and you're trying to interact with a customer. That interaction is not just like, okay, the person sends you a message and you just reply, right? It's like a multi-step interaction where you're trying to think through, how do I accomplish the person's goals? And a lot of times when a customer comes, they don't necessarily know exactly what they're looking for or how to ask their questions. So it's not really the job of the AI to just respond to the question. It's like you need to kind of think about it more holistically. It's really becomes a reasoning problem, right? So if someone else solves reasoning or makes good advances on reasoning, and we're sitting here and with a basic chatbot, then like our product is lame compared to what other people are building. So it's like, okay, so at the end of the day, we basically realized we've got to solve general intelligence. And we just kind of upped the ante and the investment to make sure that we could do that.
So the version of Llama that's going to solve all these use cases for users, is that the version that will be powerful enough to like replace a programmer you might have in this building?
I just think that all this stuff is going to be progressive over time.
But in case, Llama 10.
I think that there's a lot baked into that question. I'm not sure that we're replacing people as much as giving people tools to do more stuff.
Is a programmer in this building 10x more productive after Llama 10?
I would hope more. But no, I mean, look, I don't believe that there's like a single threshold of intelligence for humanity, because people have different skills. And at some point, I think that AI is going to be is probably going to surpass people at most of those things, depending on how powerful the models are. But I think it's progressive. And I don't think AGI is one thing. I think you're basically adding different capabilities. So multimodality is kind of a key one that we're focused on now, initially with photos and images and text, but eventually with videos. And then because we're so focused on the metaverse, kind of 3D type stuff is important. One modality that I'm pretty focused on, that I haven't seen as many other people in the industry focus on this, is sort of like emotional understanding. Like, so much of the human brain is just dedicated to understanding people and kind of like understanding your expressions and emotions, and that's like its own whole modality, right? That, you could say, okay, maybe it's just video or image, but it's like clearly a very specialized version of those too. So there's all these different capabilities that I think you want to basically train the models to focus on, as well as getting a lot better at reasoning, getting a lot better at memory, which I think is kind of its own whole thing. I don't think we're going to be,
Bye.